Tired of being picked on, Yongha, the new transfer student, decides to fight back and discovers he can pack a punch. Will he finally get the satisfaction of beating Suho up? The main character starts as a typical high school bully and becomes the leader of his group in his school. The reason? Hello, I'm Azabe. Before we begin, know that we'll go through a brief overview from the wiki, then my non-spoiler opinion, followed by the spoilers, and the final conclusion with a rating. Enjoy watching. Tired of being picked on, Yongha, the new transfer student, decides to fight back and discovers he can pack a punch. He soon becomes the top of the food chain, savoring his new title as the toughest guy at school. But he meets his match when Suho Kang, the champion of the PvP games, single-handedly takes down him and his crew. To earn back his honor, Yongha decides to join the PvP games. Will he finally get the satisfaction of beating Suho up, or will he gain something more? Hanlim Gym is a Korean Y-Lab webtoon, being the 30th super string webtoon and the 4th blue string webtoon. Also, if you want to know what exactly it's a super string series or a blue string series, let me know in the comments and I'm gonna make a video about that. The story is written by Hyun Song, illustrated by Sak Jae Lee, and produced by Taek Chae, published by Y-Lab. Hanlim Gym, with the debut of the Hanlim Gym series, or as is also known, Hanlim Gymnasium, introduces us to the world of Yongha Jeon, our main character, portrayed as a newcomer to his class. As many of you have probably guessed, the story starts with the classic style of manhwas set in schools, or high school, hence the most likely name Gymnasium. It's important to note that, as often encountered in this genre of stories, realism can sometimes be sacrificed to enhance the narrative impact. In Hanlim Gym, we observe this thing where teenagers seem to possess powers and abilities that are on par with or even exceed the limits of an adult, alongside the presence of gangs and other elements that wouldn't usually be present at that age, and if they are, they're much smaller than depicted in this genre of manhwa, making them seem much more dangerous than they really are, at least to adults, and their number being much lower compared to the impression created by this genre of manhwa. However, unlike the other similar stories, Hanlim Gym manages to change its direction quite rapidly. From the school team, the story makes a relatively quick transition and awaits us with another setting, the PvP battles. Of course, we'll discuss this in more details with spoilers in the spoiler section. This transition feels balanced, offering a pleasant break from the usual patterns where the action predominantly revolves around the school. One of the remarkable aspects of the series is the evolution of the main character. This evolution is not limited to the development of his powers, given that this is a fighting manhwa. The evolution is also reflected in the character's appearance, personality, and mindset, providing a complete and authentic perspective of his transformation. This transition is neither abrupt nor slow. It feels balanced and progresses at the pace that leaves no room for frustration but also doesn't seem rushed. This approach significantly enhances the story, bringing a fresh air compared to the similar manhwas. Now, after my long short introduction, let's delve into more details about the story, of course trying to omit spoilers. The main character, Jeon, starts as a typical high school bully and becomes the leader of his group in his school. The reason? He's naturally stronger and more talented in fights than his peers, all without any training or fighting style. This dominance makes him extremely confident in his abilities, believing himself to be the strongest. But this perception changes rapidly. Coming into contact with Suho Kang, and an incredible, powerful fighter, Jeon experiences a confrontation that irreversibly changes his life that night. Defeated mercilessly in the following days, he meets a girl named Hanlim Lim, who wears a tracksuit with the inscription Hanlim Gym. Realizing that the bully who humiliated him had the same name on his gear, Jeon tries to uncover the mysteries behind Hanlim Gym, discovering that it's a training hall run by Hanlim Lim's alcoholic father. Jeon decides to become a member to surpass his limits and confront Suho Kang. Throughout the intense training and subsequent discoveries, Jeon learns the reason why Suho was expelled, one of them being the illegal fight alias PvP battles. And at this moment, finding out that there are secret organizations that administer these fights, and the wealthy or extreme wealthy people being spectators of these fights, being amusing for them. There are even bets on who will win the fight, and many other mysteries which we'll discuss in the spoiler part. At the same time, John gradually becomes more humble and develops a protective side towards the weaker ones. However, his desire to defeat Suho in illegal fights PvP persists, motivating him to become even stronger. Hanlim Gym offers an apparently ordinary story about high school students, but with a twist that transforms the team from high school fights into a profound one, with the life and death at stake. However, my overall impression is that despite the well-built twists and mysteries, the story fails to be unique enough to get a higher score than the one I offer to this manhwa. However, certainly worth reading, especially as it's very underrated and few people know of his existence. The rating for this manhwa will be revealed at the end of this video, and in case you don't want to risk getting a spoiler, you can see that the video is divided into chapters, so you can skip directly to the conclusion chapters. Spoiler warning, attention, the part where I discussed certain events from the manhwa is coming up, so there is a risk of getting spoilers from small to extremely large. Pause the clip, go read if you haven't read Hanlim Gym, and come back here when you are done. However, if you don't mind spoilers or have finished reading, continue from here. I warned you in case of anything, so proceed at your own risk. Perfect. Now we reached my favorite part, the spoiler section. Let's start discussing the most prominent characters in the story, starting with the fights between Suho and Jeon. Jeon initially thinks he can easily defeat Suho, but Suho literally knocks him out with a single punch. It's happening after easily defeating each member of Jeon's gang. This happens right from the first chapter, ending with Suho back, which has Hanlim Gym written in large font on his jacket. Basically, first chapter is a small presentation of Yongha Jeon daily life, also featuring a fight that radically changes the life of the main character. Also, this makes the beginning of a rivalry story between the two, who will later have multiple fights. But throughout Jeon loses all the fights, in the most recent chapters there doesn't seem to be such a big difference in power between the two. Their last fight at the beginning of the PvP tournament ends without a clear answer. Even though the fight seems to be in Suho's favor, we later find out that the fight had the potential to be lost by Suho, being quite debatable in who could have won if the fight hadn't been stopped. The next character I want to discuss is Hanlim's father, Kwangcheon Lim. Initially, he is presented as an irresponsible father, a notorious alcoholic who spends the whole day drinking soju and sleeping like a pig. Oh, how wrong can you be if you believe that? Her father is not only tough, but he is also a renowned assassin in the black market, known as an invincible god, a master of war and killing. All the initial phases where he seems to be a big loser are actually just a setup. He hasn't been drinking alcohol for a long time, all because of his past and the fact that his wife is deceased. And here you might ask, okay Azabe, but what does that have to do with the fact that he doesn't drink alcohol anymore? Oh, and it has a connection. One of them being that his wife is the one who taught him how to drink soju, she being the one who attracted him and not the other way around, being also the one who made him give up the life of an assassin. This aspect adds an additional level of interest to read the story. Also, if you want to find out how and why Hanlim's mother died, read the manhwa. You won't regret it. The last character that I want to talk about is more of an organization than an individual. The organization is called Unknown and is extremely mysterious without offering a clear answer about its purposes. Also, the reader name is unknown, this time because we don't know his name throughout the PvP tournament or before the tournament. Even during the PvP fights, we don't get to see his face or find out his name. This aspect adds an additional level of mystery and tension, especially since the PvP organization is run by an individual named Charles Kim, an apparently extravagant character but in reality extremely powerful and dangerous. He is the one who leads the PvP, and Unknown and the other organizations are just sponsors, each trying to assert control over the strongest PvP fighters. All these elements add an additional layer of mystery, uncertainty, and anticipation as to when a new plot twist will occur or other aspects of the unknown organization or President Charles Kim and the PvP fights will be revealed. Well, now that we have discussed a bit about the characters and the unknown organization as well as some details about PvP, let's discuss some aspects that make Hanlim Gym a manhwa worth reading and for some maybe even indispensable manhwa. One of the strengths of the story is that many characters are not what they seem. Plus, both the characters who show their true faces and those who keep hidden secrets constantly evolve, both in terms of character and power, as well as their appearance. This dynamic makes the story much more captivating, especially since we have numerous past memories of interesting characters. Also, the fact that this evolution happens with many characters, not just with the protagonist, makes Hanlim Gym a remarkable manhwa. To clarify, let's talk about some interesting moments that haven't been discussed yet, like the character Kangyun Ji, also known as Scarface. Even throughout Kangyun seems to be older than Yongha, the two are actually similar in age. Throughout the story, not only do we learn about his past and the reason he fights, but we also see him becoming stronger. With each confrontation, he accumulates more and more injuries, which is why he gets the nickname Scarface, because of the scars covering his body and his face. This fascinating evolution and deepening of characters, not just for the protagonist or a limited number of characters, but a considerable number of characters, makes Hanlim Gym a truly memorable read. And before drawing the conclusion, let's talk a little about another character whose transformations can be observed from all points of view, not just in terms of strength but also appearance and character. Talking about Chorong Kim, also known as Red Brick. Red Brick is not only initially presented as a rival that Yongha must overcome, but also his goals change after meeting Yongha. His appearance changes several times throughout the story, and his past reveals that behind his appearance and behavior during fights hides a dark and painful past. And now, the conclusion. In conclusion, after all being discussed, both without spoilers, but especially with the spoilers, it's quite evident that Hanlim Gym is a very good manhwa, especially as I already noticed, unlike most manhwas of this kind, the evolution is not only observed in strength and fights, but also in appearance, in what we know about the characters and their past. Also the fact that this evolution is noted in a considerable number of characters, not just the main character, as usually happens in most manhwas, gives a unique feel from my point of view. However, even with all prizes and good word about Hanlim Gym, I don't consider it unique enough as a manhwa because it has many generic cliches of fighting manhwas as well as those with high school students, and sometimes some twists are quite generic, and from these two reasons I have to lower the score I will give this manhwa, the score being 8 out of 10. And yes, I know that now you'll say, but Azabe, didn't you say it's good, worth reading, unique and has cool twists? Why are you deducting 2 points now and saying is not unique enough or has generic components? And here I will answer quite simply. Yes, Hanlim Gym is a very good manhwa and worth reading, and if you give it a chance, I'm more than sure you won't regret it. However, in some places the uniqueness leaves something to be desired, which, if I want to be fair when giving a score, at least from my point of view, is not a 9 or a 10 because of the lack of uniqueness in some places. But I promise you that if you read it, you won't be disappointed, so go ahead and read Hanlim Gym. And if you think I missed something, feel free to leave a comment about that or parts you would have wanted discussed in the video and consider omitted, and a like and subscribe if you want more of this type of videos. I've been Azabe, I wish you happy reading, and we'll hear from each other in a new video. Bye!